All right, welcome to lesson 4 of 10-minute Excel training. Another reminder that the class is recorded, so I probably should have done my hair more. Please open the workbook that I sent around this morning. It should look something like this. Can you all see that? Yeah? Cool. All right, so this is, I guess, part 2 of the 3 things employers look for when they ask whether you know how to use Excel series. We're going to be looking at the VLOOKUP / HLOOKUP, which we hardly ever use. But again, it's same as last week. It's probably a bit more advanced, this topic. And I realize in 10 minutes you can't really cover an advanced topic too well. So, and last week I fully acknowledge we flew through that class. So if you need to go through anything we've talked about today again, fully understand, just watch the recording. And then it's worthwhile because you'll slowly pick up these skills. Okay, so intro to VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, the syntax, well, the VLOOKUP is, it allows you to look up, as the name suggests, a certain value against a table where that value will exist. Okay. And the V in VLOOKUP is vertical, as opposed to H, which is horizontal. We'll get to that later. Anyways, the syntax for a VLOOKUP is equals VLOOKUP, open bracket, and you'll see that the first thing is the lookup value. That's what we're trying to find in a table. Then the next part is the table array. The table array is, well, the table in which we're trying to find the lookup value. And then the third entry into a VLOOKUP function is the column index number. So the column index number is, if you have a table, and you've got your lookup value, what's your output going to be? Which column is the output? Finally, the range lookup, it's either true or false. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but ultimately it's always going to be false. Okay, so let's jump straight into this example here. So you would have seen this from last week when we did the if function. Now we're going to use a VLOOKUP to basically do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to go equals VLOOKUP, open bracket. The lookup value for us is the number 1 in this case. It's the data. Okay. Now, quick tip: try to lock your lookup value. In this case, I've just locked the column. You can see up there that the dollar symbol is against A, which means you're locking the column. If it was against the 6 as well, then it also locked the row, but I don't want to do that. Okay, so comma, table array. You can do like a distinct table like this. I generally just like to choose the entire column because then you don't miss anything. Lock that as well. Hotkey to lock a cell is F4. Crap, okay. Now you'll notice that this table only has 2 columns, and I want the second column. That's my output. So that's why I go 2. And then, as I said before, we always go false. True gives you an approximate match. You basically never ever use it. I've only ever used it maybe a half dozen times in my entire career. False is the exact match, which is generally what you want. So, and then close bracket, enter. Then that's all we expect. We want the 1 to show red. We go down to the bottom, Control D to drag that all the way down. Okay. One thing to take note of is when you highlight your table, you'll notice here that, all right, once I let go, it won't show it. So I'm just going to have to keep it held there. You'll see that it gives you the number of columns. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that? It should do you see 1048576R times 2C? That gives you the number of columns that you've actually selected. For 2 columns, it's pretty obvious. There's only 2 columns, but if you go all the way across, like you're going to start miscounting columns if you're literally just going, you know, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, you know. But the best way is, well, the trick is to take a look before you let go. You can see that there's 7 columns there. That's going to be your column reference number, well, depending on which column you're actually looking at. Things to keep in mind: your lookup value has to be in the first column. Okay, so our number 1 here has to exist in the first column. If I were to do this, if I were to start from column D, it wouldn't work, because it's always the very first column is where the lookup value has to exist. Okay, I need to run because we are already 6 minutes in. Okay, we're going to HLOOKUP. That's the next tab. Control page down to go to the next tab. HLOOKUP, as the name suggests, is basically exactly the same thing, but it's when your lookup table is horizontal. So rather than going with columns, like a VLOOKUP, you're going with rows. So the syntax is the same: HLOOKUP, open bracket, lookup value is that one there. The table array in this case is this, okay? And you got to remember that the lookup value has to be in the first row in this situation. Lock that. We know that we're looking for the second row, that's our output, and then false. And that gives you the same thing. Okay. In the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I'm going to quickly go through this one here. So we've got a bunch of months here. I want to populate just the val names from this whole data sheet. Okay. Now you'll notice here that the column here is of the months, and this is the months as well. Now, if I were to do it the slow way, I could go VLOOKUP this, lock the column. Table array is in the next sheet, so I have to go to the next sheet. Choose the entire table, lock that. You can see it's 13 columns. And for January, I would want column 2 because it's in the second column there. So I'll press 2, false, enter, and then drag that down. Okay. Now that's a terrible way, because once I do this and I drag that formula across, I'm going to keep getting the same value because it's always looking up the second column because I've specified column 2. Now, the smart way to do that is having a cell show the column reference. So I'm going to go 2 there, and then because it's always +1, so +1 there. Yeah. So instead of having a distinct number 2 there as my column index number, what I can actually do is I can have a cell there instead. So it's going to look up that value as my column reference. So instead of having like changing the formula so many different times, I can actually just have that look across. I need to lock the row for that. Down and across, and there. Now you'll see that it's picked up the second column, the third column, the fourth column, because it's looking up that column reference. All right, that's 9 minutes. So we definitely ran out of time to cover a bunch of other stuff. I knew that we would ahead of time, but there's other things like troubleshooting that you can ask me about in terms of issues with the VLOOKUP, because they quite often break. The application of the true variable instead of false, the very rare circumstances you'll ever need to use that, and more advanced applications of the VLOOKUP function, as like when in real life I'm actually ever going to use this. That's basically it. Oh, there's also a thing called XLOOKUP. I think it's only for like really recent versions of Excel. I don't even know whether it's available here. I've never actually used it before, but it's supposed to be the upgraded version of the VLOOKUP/HLOOKUP/index matching. Only big Excel nerds know about that and care. All right, that's basically it. If you have any questions, let me know. If you guys have any like special requests for future 10-minute Excel trainings, let me know as well. Or I might just do like a answering questions version of this one day. But that's it. Hope you guys got something out of that. And give me a shout if you have any problems. Have a good one.
Matt,
Thanks.
can I ask you?
Yeah, of course.
Is it possible to send your completed table so we can look at the formulas
Yeah, for sure. I'll send that out.
for this and the previous sessions? Probably just helps with, yeah.
Yeah, the previous session, it has like a hint box at the a hint box on the top right. That actually has the formula in there.
Okay.
I've forgotten to add it to this one because I'm a doofus.
All right. No problem. Cool.
I'll send this out as well. All right.
Thanks.
See you guys next time.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers.